First of all, I would like to say that it's a great honor and a great pleasure that for the second time we do have Mr. Bob Brier in our syndicate. And my friend Shahad said to me, he loves this title so much, the lover of Egypt. That's right.
Because actually he loves it.
Okay. So I used to think for a long time, my dear friends, that why there are many people, they love to study the Egyptian history and they are so interested and they are not Egyptian. And the answer simply that they do love Egypt. And Dr. Bob Brier is one of them. I can't say lots about him because he had long day today, lots of visits, and tomorrow early morning he have to wake up as well. So I'm sure that you're going to enjoy his lecture so much, and I'm one of you waiting for this lecture. So please start.
What I'd like to do tonight is a theory about how the pyramid was built. I thought it might be fun for you because you're Luxor guys. I won't try to tell you anything about Luxor because you know all about it. So we'll do Giza, and I'd like to present a theory that is not mine. It's somebody else's theory. Make that clear. But I think it's a very interesting theory. What I'm going to tell you about really is a tale of two architects. Two architects. This one is Pieno, the architect of the Great Pyramid. He's the cousin of Khufu. And the reason he's heavy, as we all know, is he was prosperous. He was doing well. This architect is a Frenchman named Jean-Pierre Houdin. And it's his theory that I'm really talking about. We've been working together, that he's the one who really figured this thing out. Now, this is, of course, a pre-dynastic burial. It's very early. This is more than 1,000 years before the pyramids were built. And, of course, they were just burying in sand then, right? But, even in this time, they had a belief in life after death. He's buried with his pot, his slate palette, some necklaces. Maybe he'll need it in the next world. But the problem with burying in the sand is the sand's going to blow away, the body will be exposed, jackals will get it, and it'll be destroyed. So as you all know, the next step is the mastaba, to protect the burial, which is still beneath, but to protect the body. Mud brick. Then all of a sudden, we get the step pyramid of Saqqara. The first large building in stone in history, the first pyramid, and there are no smaller buildings in stone. It's all of a sudden like this. But it didn't start out like this. No architect, and we know the architect again, Imhotep. Right? We know the architects' names because they were so important. This did not start out as a pyramid. Nobody ever woke up, Imhotep did not wake up and say, I'm going to build a pyramid, I have a great idea. He was going to build a mastaba for Zasser, and he builds a mastaba in stone. That's what's different. But Zasser is alive and well, so he enlarges it. And then, he's still alive and well, the king. So Imhotep decides to put a mastaba on top of a mastaba, something really different. And then the king is still alive, and it's enlarged 2 more times, and we get mastaba on top of mastaba on top of mastaba, and we get the step pyramid of Saqqara. So it's an architectural development. It's a shwaya. It's not all of a sudden, boom, you get this big pyramid. First pyramid in stone, first pyramid, but the burial's still beneath ground. Now this is the big jump. Maidum, right? The pyramid of Maidum. This is again another first. This is the first attempt at a true pyramid. It started out as a step pyramid, you can see that. Starts out as a step pyramid, and then the architect gets the idea, let's fill in the steps. So they try to make it a true pyramid. But the angle, I think, is too steep. There's something wrong with this pyramid. I won't say it collapsed, but it was abandoned before it was finished. It was never used. We can see that in the burial chamber. But in the burial chamber, there's an important first for pyramids. This is the first burial chamber above ground. The pharaoh is not going to be buried under the pyramid. He will be buried in it. Okay? In it. Now, how do you do that? How do you put a burial chamber in a pyramid that will support the weight of the pyramid above it. It's a real problem. If you have a beam going across, it'll crack. So the answer is corbelling. This is the burial chamber, which was abandoned, never used, never finished. You can see it's rough. This is the front wall, these are the side walls, and what they did is they moved each layer of stone in a little bit, in a little bit, in a little bit, so that the ceiling, we're looking up now at the ceiling, the roof, right there, it's only this wide, and that won't crack. So corbelling is the answer to how do you have a room inside a pyramid. First big step forward. Okay? Now this was abandoned. So the pharaoh, Sneferu, you know him? Sneferu needs another pyramid. He doesn't give up. He builds another pyramid. The bent pyramid at Dashur. It starts out as a true pyramid. It starts out as a true pyramid. They get up to here. Now, as you know, pyramids are built on bedrock, on solid stone. You can't build on sand, they'll shift. This was built on solid stone, no problem. But it was enlarged. They made it bigger at some point, and this corner rests on gravel, just sort of like a road, and it started to move. The pyramid started to move. When they got this height, the pyramid starts to shift, and the burial chamber starts to collapse. It's imploding. It's going inside. What did they do? Let me tell you about going inside the Dashur bent pyramid. I'm sure no one here has ever been inside that pyramid. Anybody inside it? You've been in? Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? Not easy too, but it's quite something, right?
Yes.
You have to go up a rope ladder, then you go up this ladder 55 feet, you go through a hole, then you jump over that pit, and then you're in the burial chamber. Now look at the corbelling, all four sides. They're learning how to do it. This is the burial chamber, right? It's a problem. Now, this is the burial chamber. To keep the pyramid from collapsing, they brought in cedars of Lebanon, big beams, big logs, 67 feet long, and put them from wall to wall so the walls couldn't come in. But you can't bury Sneferu in this room with logs. Sneferu needs another pyramid, right? So what they did with this pyramid is they finished it as a symbolic pyramid. They bent it because that saves a lot of stone rather than going like that. They bend it and they leave it. He needs another pyramid. So at Dashur, Sneferu builds a third pyramid, the red, Ahmed. There it is. It's smaller. He's getting old. They have to finish it. He needs a place to be buried. And Sneferu was finally buried here. This is the first true pyramid in which a pharaoh is buried. Right? So that's our quick development of the pyramid. And it's important to remember, it's developmental. It's not like the New Age people say, oh, the pyramid has magical powers. No architect ever thought the pyramid had magical powers. It was a mastaba, then it's a mastaba on top of a mastaba, then we put a burial chamber above ground. It's evolving. It's evolving. And that's the inside, the beautiful corbelling inside the red. Right? Just fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Now to the theory, what I want to talk about. This, of course, is the Great Pyramid of Giza, right? It's certainly the largest pyramid ever built. It may not be the most complicated. We'll see. It might be. You know the statistics. I think the base is large enough that it covers 13.5 acres. It's about 480 feet high. But the important thing is the height. More than 480 feet. 2 million blocks of stone. 2 million blocks that average 2.5 tons. So they're about the size of this table, a little bigger. How do you get a block to the top of this pyramid? We've had many theories. We've had many theories. None of them work. I mean, I teach my students all the time these theories, but I say to them, but it's not true. It doesn't work. Inside. Now remember that Khufu is the son of Sneferu. He saw his father's pyramids fail. The Maidum pyramid, the Ben pyramid. He was worried about, where am I going to be buried? What happens if this happens to me? So he didn't take any chances. Right from the beginning, Khufu decides, I am going to have a burial chamber ready no matter when I die. So he plans for 3 burial chambers. There are 3 burial chambers inside the Great Pyramid, and each one was intended for Khufu, depending upon when he dies. If he dies within the first 5 years of building, there it is. Underground, a burial chamber, that'll be ready in 5 years, no problem. This one, if he's alive and well after 12 years, he can be buried here. If he's still alive and well after maybe 15, 16 years, there's a burial chamber here. So, he's going to have some place ready. That's the interior. This is the burial chamber where he was finally buried, the 3rd one highest up. That's the sarcophagus. Interesting, by the way, there are exactly 100 blocks of granite forming the burial chamber. Exactly 100. Now, the strange thing about this is we saw how you have a room inside a pyramid. Corbelling. Mafish. There's no corbelling. Now, how they do that? It's a straight beam. Certainly, this would collapse with the weight of the pyramid over it. The answer is, it's not a true ceiling. It doesn't support anything. This is the diagram what we're looking at. This is the sarcophagus. This is the roof that we were looking at, the ceiling. But above it is a little relieving chamber. This is empty. This is a room, a water for this very small room. Above it is another one. Above it is another one. Another one. And then here, these big beams, rafters, take the weight and distribute it into the body of the pyramid like that, so this doesn't support the weight of the pyramid. That's the solution. So it comes like that. Comes like that. And Khufu was buried in there. Now, that's the top. Those are the big rafters. Up, 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 up. Now for the theory, right? How do you get the blocks to the very top? The theory that most of us know and talk about is the ramp. A single ramp. It must be on the south side of the pyramid. The reason it must be on the south side is on the east and west, we have the cemetery, the mastabas. Can't put a ramp there. This is the plateau that goes to the valley. Can't have a ramp there. So the only place is the south. Now, the theory is, you get the blocks to the top by this ramp. You start here with a small ramp, and you keep making it bigger, 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 till you get it long enough to get to the top. The problem is, you can't have a steep ramp. You can't take blocks up very steep. It has to be maybe 8 degrees. No steeper. You cannot get it any steeper. If it's 8 degrees, and it goes 480 feet up, that means this ramp is 1 mile long. 1 mile. And it's equal in volume to the pyramid. It's the same number of blocks as the pyramid. It's really impossible. They couldn't have built something that big. You'd be building 2 pyramids. Besides, we have never found the remains of that ramp. If there really was a ramp there, you can't cart that, you can't bring it away, you can't get rid of the rubbish. It's too big. It would be somewhere. We've never seen it, so we know that's wrong. We all teach it, we all say, well, there's a possibility, but we know it can't be. You can't build a pyramid that high with a ramp like that. So that's wrong. This is our aerial view of the pyramids. You can see the ramp would have to go here. It's the only place it could go. You have the cemetery, big steep drop, and that's it. That's where the ramp would have been, but it wasn't. The other possibility that you've all heard of is a ramp going around the pyramid. That the pyramid is the ramp. It goes, you bring the blocks up, corkscrewing up like this, and then you put the casing stones, those beautiful white casing stones, the Tura limestone, on the outside. That too is impossible. You can't do it. You have to put the casing stones on as you're building up because they support the next ones. And you need those casing stones to take measurements to make sure it's perfect. You have to sight along this edge. And if you have this ramp, you can't take your sightings. So all the experts on pyramid building say the same thing. This is impossible also. So the two best theories we have are wrong, and we know it. The question is, what is the other theory? What's another possibility? Well, this is what the pyramid looked like when it was completed. Perfectly white, gleaming in the sun. But how did they get the blocks to the top? This is Jean-Pierre Houdin, who emailed me once and said, a friend of yours said I should contact you. I have a theory about the pyramid I'd like to talk to you about. Now, almost always when somebody says they have a theory about the pyramid they'd like to talk to me about, it's not good, right? It's usually a retired engineer who's never seen the pyramid and thinks he knows how it was done. But a friend sent him, so I said, okay, let's see what you have. So Jean-Pierre came from Paris. He lives in Paris. He came with his laptop computer. And I had some friends over, Egyptologists, to talk to him. And he takes out his laptop. And he tells us a story. He's an interesting man. He was a successful architect. Successful. And he gave up his job. He became obsessed, interested only in the Great Pyramid of Giza. That's all he cared about. He sold his large apartment, moved into a small apartment, so for 5 years he could do nothing but computer modeling of the Great Pyramid of Giza, figuring out how it was built. Okay, that's his interest. Then he showed us his computer simulations of the pyramid, and they were beautiful. Better than anything you've ever seen on television. They were fabulous. And then he explained his theory. This is his theory. Jean-Pierre Houdin believes that inside the pyramid, inside it, is a ramp. Like at Dendara, when you go to the roof, like that. But inside is a ramp, 1 mile long, going inside, and that's how the blocks were brought up. You bring a block in through here at the corner, it comes up here, comes around, up, 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 and you bring the blocks up to the top. That's the theory. Now first is it possible? The computer simulation, I mean, I thought at first, wouldn't it have to hit one of the rooms? One of the connecting galleries? No. The computer model shows for sure you can do it. It comes like this, 8%, and you can do it. You have to leave the corners open. See the corners? Because you know when you turn a big block, when it makes change the direction, you need more area. It has to make a big swing, like a truck. This is what he thinks it was like at the corners. The block, notice it's corbelling in the internal ramp. This is the ramp inside. This is a corner of the pyramid that's left open. These men are hauling the block up, and they're going to turn it and bring it through the next part of the ramp, up, up, up. So that's what he thinks it would have looked like when they're building the pyramid on this internal ramp. And he believes it's still there, and in principle, you could get inside, if you could walk up a mile inside the Great Pyramid. That's the theory. Now, this is his model of what the quarry looked like, right? As the pyramid's being built, there's the quarry. At the very beginning, when the pyramid is being built, you have a single ramp. At the very beginning. We're getting ready. We have an internal ramp here for later, but you have a single ramp right here. And the reason is, those big beams in the burial chamber, they weigh 66 tons each. They can't come up in the internal ramp. It's too big. So the big beams come up here. When they get over here, fine. Then you take down your ramp and start using your internal ramp for the smaller stones at the top. So this ramp is built only in the beginning, maybe for the first 1/5 of the height of the pyramid, and then you build the rest of the pyramid. That's another view of it. There is the single ramp just for the beginning. It doesn't have to be so long because it's not so high. And that's the burial chamber. You bring the big beams up, put them on the burial chamber, then you don't need it open. And you finish your pyramid. Now the question is this. Is there any evidence for this theory? It's an interesting theory, but is it true? Can we gain any evidence at all that that ramp is inside? Now, I felt this was an important theory. I really did. And I'll never forget when I said to Jean-Pierre Houdin, the architect, I said, what did you think when you saw the Great Pyramid for the first time? And he said, oh, I've never seen it. He had never been to Egypt, and he didn't want to come. He didn't guess. I said, don't you want to see the pyramid? He said, I know what it looks like. That's what he said. He didn't want to come. I was convinced. I said, you have to go. We have to see if this is true. So for a year, I gave up my research, learned something about pyramids, and took him to Egypt to see what we could do. To see if we could find any evidence at all for this ramp. Now, we're beginning our research here. I have a National Geographic team. They did a documentary about this. That's how we paid for this thing. They would bring us and pay all our expenses, and they would do the documentary. This is our film crew. You know where we are? You know where this is?
Eastern side.
Huh?
Eastern side.
No? No? You Saeedis, you Saeedis. How was here? Right? You guys, you gotta go north. Now, the reason we're here is because a great German architect, Egyptologist, Ludwig Borchardt, said he was there and he saw an internal ramp in a small temple, not a pyramid, but of the Old Kingdom, and he drew a diagram. Now this is Jean-Pierre here. There's our cameraman, our director, whatever, and we're looking at this diagram. I'll show you the diagram. This is what Borchardt drew in 1905. It's not for construction, not for building the little, you know, there was an obelisk on top where they would greet the sun. This is the internal ramp right here. It's the sun temple. This is right here. This is the ramp. The priests would walk like a tendera. They would walk here in a procession to the top. So this at least shows that in the Old Kingdom, the builders were using internal ramps. Now this wasn't used for the construction, but still it shows something. Not much, it doesn't prove the theory, I'm not saying that, but it shows something. That's the internal ramp that's left there. That's the remaining. This was a ceiling block. Right? So it really was an internal ramp. Now, we looked at everything. Old photos. Now here's where Francis has loads of old photos of Egypt, knows these things well. Look at that. Isn't that a strange thing? Doesn't it strike you as strange? That line, you see the line, right? It's right where the ramp should be. Now, I have to admit, I do not understand what this means. Why is this line there? I thought it was a scratch on the negative. And then I got other photos. It's not a scratch on the negative. It's there. Now, it's not the ramp, but look, it curves around. You see it? It goes from there to there. It's 8%, but it's just a white line on the pyramid. There are other old photos showing it. I was wondering, is it there today? Can you see it today? Yeah, it's there. It's there. Now, one more. There, you see it? And look, it goes to this notch right here, this place at the corner where it's missing stones. It goes right to it, 8% to the corner, and blocks are missing. Now, we wondered, could this be the part where they turned the blocks, right? I think I have maybe that part, right? Is it a mumkin, right? Could it be? We took a telephoto lens and took the picture. That's what it looks like. Is it intentional? Is it just blocks falling out? Listen, we don't know. We really don't know. So I got permission to climb the pyramid to look at the notch, to look at that corner. That's what it looks like up close. It's not clear if it's intended to be used or if it's just an accident that the blocks fell out. I don't know. But I was up there, and I'm taking measurements. Now, Jean-Pierre was not allowed to climb. I was the only one who got permission to climb with a cameraman. So we climbed, and it's the part of the pyramid, you know, many people climb the pyramid. It's not difficult, it's easy. But this corner is very difficult to climb to, very difficult. The rocks are crumbly, they're different size. It's very hard, very difficult. So I'm up here, and nobody's been here. I don't know any Egyptologists who've been here. Nobody ever mentions this. And I'm taking pictures for Jean-Pierre, who's down, to see what he thinks. He's the architect. I'm just taking pictures. They get a idea of scale, and I'm taking measurements, right? And then I see a hole in the back. I'm standing on this corner, and in the back, this part, is a hole. And it's big. And I can go in it. Now, no ramp. No ramp. It's not there. But there's a room. There is a room that nobody ever talked about. Inside here. It's about 8 feet by 9 feet. There it is. I'm in it. Now, I tell you, I'm not sure whether it's used for turning the blocks or what, but I take pictures, I take measurements, I go down to Jean-Pierre and I say, what do you think? And a couple of months later, he goes back home with the pictures, he uses his computer, he does the models, and this is what he thinks it was. This is the ramp, here, he believes. This is the area for turning, and I was just behind, just 1 block away from the ramp, he thinks. He thinks, it's not sure by any means, but that's what he thinks, where he thinks I was. I'll show you another picture there. Right there. So we're just close to what he thinks. I don't know, I'm not sure, but it's a little bit of support for the theory, this notch. What he believes is that the ramp had 2 levels. You pull the block up one, and then the workers have to go down on the 2nd level. That's how he models it right now. Okay, that's the theory, that there's an internal ramp inside the pyramid, and that's how they got the blocks to the top. Our evidence, the old kingdom, they had an internal ramp at Abu Sir. We have old photos with this line, which doesn't really mean much, it doesn't make sense. We have the lines today, which is good. We have notch, which is pretty good, right? It's pretty good. But I think you will agree that it doesn't prove that this internal ramp is there. It's just a theory that hasn't been proven and has a little bit of evidence. A little bit. But I have one more bit of evidence for you. One bit. Okay. In 1984, a French team came to the Great Pyramid to do a survey of the pyramid looking for hidden chambers. They were looking for hidden chambers with a technique called microgravimetrics. They're looking for low-density areas within the pyramid. 1984. It worked. They found a hidden room that nobody knew about. Small room, it's the one when you go into the corridor to the Queen's chamber, there's a hole in the wall of pipes there. That's what they found. It contained some sand, nothing fabulous, but at least the technique works. They found this hidden room by using this technique. But that's bad for our theory, because if the technique works, if the method works to find hidden chambers, they should have found the ramp, and they didn't. And that's bad. About 6 years ago, Jean-Pierre was giving a lecture in Paris to engineers, and a member of the team from 1984 was in the audience. After the lecture, he came up to me and said, "If you come to my office next week, I think you will be very happy." So Jean-Pierre went to this scientist's office, from the French team of 1984 that did the survey, and the Frenchman said to him, "You know, in 1985, when we went back to our computer to print out what the inside of the pyramid looked like, we got a printout, a sheet of paper, that we didn't understand, so we never published it. Let me show you what it looks like." Now this is what Jean-Pierre had been drawing for years, the inside of the pyramid, the ramp, the internal ramp at the corners. The French in 1984 had this. That's what their printout showed the inside of the pyramid looked like. They didn't know what it meant, so they ignored it. It certainly looks like the internal ramp is there. So we think there's some good evidence for it. That this is probably the best evidence we have that the internal ramp is really inside it. And that's the corner where I was, right? Lunch missing. And we think it may be there. Now our hope is that we will get permission next year. You know, as you all know, these are difficult times. It's difficult to know who has the permissions, who to get the permission, what to do, but we're hoping that next year we can bring an infrared camera to Egypt from France. It's a military camera, that's the difficulty. But it's an infrared camera that can see inside the pyramid using temperature differential between the empty space and the solid space, and this will tell us for sure if the ramp is inside. So we're hoping that next year we'll know for sure whether this theory is true or not. Right now, we can't say we've proven it, but there's some evidence for it. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions about the pyramid? Go ahead.
About the second small ramp outside
Yes. Yes.
Is there any traces or remains?
Good question. Wonderful question. Wait, think back. Very good question. Let me get back to it. I'm going back. Aha. The question is, the little temporary ramp, are there any traces of it? None. Now you know why?
I don't know.
I'll tell you why. The rest of the pyramid is built out of the blocks from the ramp. The top 2/3 of the pyramid is built out of the ramp's blocks. It's just the right amount of volume. So they use this for the beginning, then they take it down, and then they build the rest of the pyramid from it. That's why. I'll tell you something else that I think will interest you about the pyramid. If I can, burial chamber is, I think I go this way, wait. Yeah. Coming. Okay. If you look very carefully at the beams here, these big beams, they cracked. Every one of those beams is cracked on the south side. The south side where the ramp was, okay? Every one of them cracked. We wondered, when did they crack? Did they crack while the pyramid was being built? Did they crack after the pyramid was being built? Right? We did a computer simulation of building the pyramid block by block. Okay? We built the pyramid block by block to see when it cracks. When will this crack? When will the forces be so great that it'll crack? Didn't crack. Built the whole pyramid on the computer, no cracks. Then we realized we forgot something. The south wall of the burial chamber is 1 inch lower than the north wall. Okay? We put that in the computer. We started building it. It cracked when we got about 50 feet above here. So we know when it cracked. This cracked during the construction when the pyramid reached about 320 feet, something like that. But what's really interesting is, why did it crack then? Right? Why did it crack then? The answer is, that's the point at which they took the ramp down off the south wall, and the ramp relaxed a bit, and the wall relaxed a bit, and it moved down a bit, and it cracked. So just at the time when the ramp is being taken down to build the rest of the pyramid, this thing cracks. So it works, all works together. Yeah. So that's why there's no remains of the ramp, because they built the rest of the pyramids out of the blocks of the ramp. It's not like the mud brick ramp at Karnak. It's not like the mud brick at Karnak. It's a stone ramp, so you can use the stones. Yeah, please.
Do you think that those genius architects meant to give us this obscurance of this unique case of establishing something like pyramid? Do you think that they meant obscurance of their theory?
I'm not sure where I'm sure.
They meant that maybe they meant to give us this obscurance about it. So
I don't think. Okay, let me say this. I think. Let's put it this way. For some reason, they never wrote down how to build a pyramid. We don't have any diagrams. We don't, right? And I think maybe, for security reasons, you don't want anybody going in the pyramid. Maybe that's why they didn't tell us how they did it, so that thieves would never know how to get in. I mean, for example, if we're right about the ramp, the internal ramp theory, all the thief has to do is go to this corner and go in. So they don't want anybody to know. So I think there's a reason why they don't tell us how. I think so. I think it's intentional.
Yes.
I think they don't want to. I think that's right. I think so.
That because every generation new theories.
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah. No, I think so.
still obscure.
Yeah. Please. Yeah, go ahead. Good.
What do you think of the writings about the orientation of the pyramid?
Oh, the writing about the orientation of the pyramids. Well, for sure, the pyramid is oriented perfectly on the 4 points of the compass, north, south, east, west, for sure. The Orion theory, I think that's crazy. I don't believe in it at all. Because the Orion theory is that the 3 pyramids are aligned to the belt of Orion, right? The 3 pyramids were not planned together. They were not planned as a unit. They first built the Great Pyramid, right? Then then you got Abu Roash. There's a pyramid at Abu Roash. Then you go to the Giza Plateau again. So I don't think they were planned at once. No, I don't think it has anything to do with the stars or Orion. I think it's simply they wanted it on the 4 points of the compass so they could have the entrance on the north side to associate the pharaoh with the North Star because it's permanent. So I don't think I don't believe the Orion thing at all. No. Yeah, please.
Why we don't have any writing on the wall of the pyramids?
Good
No
question.
reference.
I wish
No
I
reference
knew.
that this is the
I
pyramid.
do not know. Why is there no writing on the inside the pyramid? I mean, think about it. Khufu builds the biggest, greatest building on earth, and there's nothing to say it's his. He doesn't write anything. We do have something though. The Valley Temple. You know, with each pyramid is a Valley Temple. And on the Valley Temple in the causeways is writing. So we know Sneferu said this is his pyramid in the bend. And we know that if we have the Valley, Temple of Khufu. So at least the Valley Temple tells whose it is. But it's very curious. It is. It's very strange. I don't know why they didn't put it. The only reason we knew for a while that it's Khufu's is graffiti that the workman puts in the relieving chamber. So it is strange. And it's not until Unas that we get pyramid texts. End of the 5th dynasty, we get pyramid texts, we get writing, we get all kinds of things. But until then, I don't know. It is curious, isn't it? It's strange.
Maybe not enough time.
He's got time. Yeah. Please.
I have a question, but I don't speak English. I make
Do it in French.
Arabic and some translate.
ماشي ماشي.
لو كان الهرم الكبير 3 حجرات
And the big pyramids had 3 rooms.
عشان كان في مراحل مختلفة لو الملك
In
ممكن
different stages, maybe the king
بعد
dies.
فترة زمنية صغيرة أو أكبر ليه ما حصلش ده للأهرامات التانية؟
Short or big times he may die or dies. Why didn't it happen to the other 2 pyramids? Why it's all unique in that big pyramid? Preparation for the 3 stages of death, maybe.
The answer is simple. Really, there is an answer. There is an answer. It was so difficult building the Great Pyramid. It was so difficult building the Great Pyramid with 3 chambers, right? That the next pyramid, Khafre's pyramid, was not like this. It didn't have 3 burial chambers. It didn't have 3 burial. He just had 1 simple chamber, and that was it.
That was his question, why?
Yeah, that's why. See, you don't need it.
That was his question, why this is the only pyramid which had 3 chambers for different
Because it was so difficult to build that the next pharaohs were afraid to do anything like this. So every pyramid, they were afraid they wouldn't have a pyramid ready. So every next pyramid has a burial down. Tough.
ما يكونوش نفس الخطر في التعقيد يعني.
We have the constructions and buildings, the life load and the dead load. Life load and the dead load.
Yes, like
And how the ancient Egyptians in a time, very early time, in the old kingdom, get the right location and never affected by the earthquakes, never affected by very simple to affect by hands of time. Did they have a methods? We don't know up till now, still a big question mark and mysterious for us.
Yeah. I will say this. I think to a great extent, we give the ancient Egyptians, in a sense, too much credit. They didn't always get it right. We have all these pyramids in the desert that failed. We have Maidum. We have the Bent Pyramid. If you go into Unus's pyramid, you can see the blocks on the center that slipped. So it isn't always stable. It wasn't always perfect. They're great. I mean, it's wonderful. But I think what helps them is they're building on limestone, which is a very good foundation. You know, it's not like granite. Granite is worse for earthquakes because it's so hard. Limestone gives a little. So I think they're lucky that they're building on top of limestone, but it didn't always work. They didn't always get it perfect. They didn't. You know, one of the things about the Egyptians that was very difficult for them, I guess you're an engineer, you sound like you're an engineer. One of the things that was very difficult, they could not calculate the strength of the materials they used. They had no way of calculating tensile strength or anything like that. And very often they did it, till it broke. And then they learned, mishgais, we do it something else. You know, so very often they just simply tried and failed. And then they kept going and did something else. So it's not always right from the beginning. Not always right. Even if you look at the first pyramid, the step pyramid, they had to build the wall slanting in to hold itself up, or else it would fall. They didn't know yet you had to have perfect right angles. It's better to have right angles for blocks, things like that. So they didn't always get it right. Not always. No.
Did ancient Egyptians they use gravity to remove the big block, 20 ton and something like this?
When you say gravity, I'm not sure what you mean.
Gazebilla.
What again?
Control the gravity. He would like to say that did they control the gravity itself?
You mean the earth,
Against.
the dynamic control of the earth.
Yeah, I understand the word. When you say controlling it,
يعني هو
like I don't think so. I think they did it simple ways, just pulling with ropes. I mean, it's amazing, but I'll tell you the thing that amazes me most. I mean, I don't think they controlled gravity in that sense. The things that is just absolutely amazing is the unfinished obelisk. That they were going to move that. I mean, look at it in the quarry and you wonder, how were they going to get it out? I mean, they didn't get it out, but you wonder, I mean, how are they going to do that? I mean, 1,000 tons. But not controlling gravity in that sense, no. Another question?
Yes. You know, Khufu was one of the greatest Egyptian kings that ruled Egypt ever and built the step pyramids, which is...
No, he built the Great Pyramid.
The pyramid, sorry.
Great Pyramid.
Big pyramid.
Yes, yeah.
And it's one of the 7 wonders of the ancient Egyptian time.
Mm-hmm.
In the time that we can find only a statue which is about 7
7
centimeters in the
Yes.
Egyptian museum.
Yes.
So I wonder always why a king who would build the great pyramids
Yeah.
and we don't have statues
Yeah.
which dates back to the time of
It's a very good question. It's a very good question. I don't know. You know, Herodotus has a story that, because, you know, Khufu was hated by the people, he says, because he was so mean and treated them poorly. building the pyramid.
Absolutely not right.
And so maybe people tend to think that maybe all the statues were destroyed because he was such a horrible person. I don't know, though. I really
And
don't know.
even the statue which we found, which dates back to about 20 dynasty, whatever, late period. It was not the time during.
It could be the time.
Yeah, because they found it in Abydos and they mentioned that it was they worshipped him later on as.
They did. I think it's an Old Kingdom statue, but it doesn't matter. But you're right. We don't have big statues of. No. Yeah, please.
Okay, good evening. We suppose that eternal ramp is the right term, okay?
Yeah.
As you know, that the pyramid was covered by limestone, okay? How did they cover the pyramid with the limestone? Secondly, how did they brought their blocks such high? We need a ramp, internal ramp, at least 4 or 5 meters, okay? How did they brought the stone to such a height?
I mean, first of all, covering the outside with limestone isn't so difficult. I mean,
Yes.
we have the facing stones at the base of the pyramid, and we can see you simply put block upon block. Now, bringing the interior blocks up, I don't think it's a problem. You pull it on a ramp. I mean, we have the model, we have the size. The other way, right? There. Right. This is it. This is wide enough for the block, wide enough for 2 rows of men, and they pull it. I think it's a mumkin. I think it's possible. I don't see any difficulty with that.
The idea is you were talking first about the spiral. You were talking about the spiral ramp around the pyramid, and you said it is impossible to use it because you need something to support the upper.
Not to support.
That's what.
No,
just to clarify.
I did say that. That's one thing I said, but it's not to support only. Let me say, go back. Wait. Yeah, this will work. I think. Right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. What most of the builders say, to control the angle of the pyramid and to make sure it meets at a point at the top. To make sure it meets, you have to control that angle exactly. Because if you're off by a few centimeters at the bottom, you'll be off by meters at the top because it's so long. To do that, you have to put the corner blocks in place as you're building it to sight along there. And if we had a ramp here, you can't put the limestone up. You have to put the limestone at the very end. Now, if you put the limestone at the very end, you've got another problem also. It'll take an extra couple of years to build the pyramid. Because once you finish most of the pyramid, then you got to put the limestone on. But if you build it as it's going up, you've got the limestone and everything in place. So it takes many more years to build a pyramid, right? If you don't have it that way, and you can't take the careful measurements of this thing. You need it filled in. Yeah, wow.
I didn't understand very well that they use two theories to build the pyramid. The first stage by the ramp and the second stage by the ramp inside. Okay. But what I really don't understand, the ramp inside, I think, from what I understand, okay, that it will be at least the weight of this ramp or the percentage of the body of this pyramid will be at least 40%, isn't it? The body of this ramp. Because it's a body.
The volume.
No, it's the volume.
Yes.
But the volume is empty, so it's fewer stones. Right? It's empty.
No, I mean what consists of what, this body of this ramp?
The ramp?
Is it empty?
Yes.
Hollow?
Yes. Like the stairway at Dendaran.
So you need steps, you need rocks.
It's a ramp. No, it's a ramp.
So it doesn't represent any percentage of the body.
No. In the volume, yes, but not weight.
That's right.
Not weight. Volume, but not weight.
Thanks.
Yeah, volume, but not weight. Go ahead, please.
Concerning the question of my colleague, the destruction which taken place during the first intermediate period.
Yes.
That's why all the achievement, majority of the achievement of the kings of the Old Kingdom period have been, missing. Destruction because of the first intermediate period, not because of King Cup's forced labor and he used the people, like this. So the people didn't like him, so they destroyed his achievement. No, sorry for that. Yeah.
No, you're right. No, I'm just saying that's what Herodotus is. The story.
The destruction caused this achievement.
It's not necessarily true.
Because of the first intermediate period. Like the achievement of the Old Kingdom. And if we go to pyramids, there we can see very few pieces dates back to the Middle Kingdom period. But so many pieces dates back to the Old Kingdom because of the Hyksos invaders. When they came, so they destroyed because the temples used it during that time. So the statues used to be, inside the temple. So when the Hyksos invaders came to Egypt, so they destroyed the Middle Kingdom achievement. It was the same for the achievement of King Cup's.
Please, go ahead.
So do you believe that the Great Pyramid, the huge building, has a hidden magic power?
Well, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. Wait, please.
Do you believe in the Great Pyramid as a huge building that it has a magic power, a hidden power, an effect on things?
No, I don't think so.
To
be
alive for a long time and be vegetable.
Oh, I know what you mean. I do know what you mean.
I know that's a German theory.
It's actually that theory starts in 1967 with a book by two women called Sheila Ostrander and Lynn Schroeder. They went to Russia, and in Russia they were doing experiments, they said, where if you take a pyramid shape and put a piece of meat inside, it will be preserved. If you put a razor blade inside, it will be sharpened, right? That's the theory. I gotta tell you, we had a lot of fun with this in the 60s. We tried it. We took the pyramid, built little pyramids, we put the meat inside, we put the razor blade inside. Nothing. Zip. Nothing. It doesn't work.
Last question.
The meditators, the leading
Please. Please.
the meditators, the leading strong close connection between pyramid and astrology and astronomy.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. Meditators, the meditators who come and meditate in pyramids, you know, and I'll say it this way, you know, as we all know, business is bad now. It's good to have meditators come and meditate.
In the end, we would like to thank Dr. Bob Brier, and it was a great honor actually, and we have a new theory now about the pyramid. You can explain it now, guys. 2020 when tourists come back. So again, I would like to thank him, and it was it's very interesting. Thank you again.
One more thing to add to that man's favor, that he asked you to stop the media focus on the hot spots of Egypt, to let the Americans to come to Egypt. So we should thank him about that.